My name is Tess Sumner. I'm a freshman at Harvard University, and I come from a very rural place in the middle of New Hampshire, so about 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
north of Cambridge. And I wanted to study somewhere that I knew would have great academics, and that's why I decided to apply to some very prestigious colleges, and I ended up here, and it's been great so far.
Amazing. When did you like first consider Harvard as a possibility? Like, was it always a dream school, or they become one later?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like it's always been sort of like this prestigious, out of reach, dream since I was a little kid. Like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I want to go to Harvard, like I want to be Elle Woods. But I mean, I didn't really seriously consider it until I was applying to colleges and I had applied to a lot of different places. And my English teacher told me, she said, Harvard has the best financial aid. Like, just shoot your shot and apply there. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, but there's no way I'm gonna get in. Like, I haven't even applied here because it just feels way too difficult.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, 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 just give it a shot. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And so I did. And I ended up getting in, which was very unexpected but incredible. So
But you got it, so amazing.
yes.
Congrats. You said like you had doubts about yourself, like I might not get in or something like that. But I feel like
Yeah.
this is something that a lot of students feel as well. I felt when I was applying to colleges as well. So like, what would you tell students who feel like, oh, I'm nothing compared to these viral success stories where the activities are like insane with like books written or stuff like
Right.
that, you
I
know?
know. Yeah, it's crazy. I would first of all say that like you belong here. You belong on every campus. There is not a place that should exclude you, nor do you deserve to be excluded from any place. And honestly, a lot of the kids that you see who have these, perfect lives, perfect GPAs, know all these things, are involved in all these extracurriculars, like they also have things going on and they're also feeling that same self-doubt and that imposter syndrome, and they are trying to prove themselves and prove that they
Mm-hmm.
do belong here, just the same way that all of us are trying to do that. I think in my first 2 weeks, I've realized that we all feel the same way. Like, there is not one person who has it all together and is like, here are my 10 crazy things that I'm doing. And, this is just so great. And I obviously deserve to be here. Like, we all have that imposter syndrome eating at us because of how crazy of a school this is. And that's the culture that comes with these really prestigious
Mm-hmm.
schools. But I think once you realize that you're not the only person who feels like that, it's a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to talk about too.
Makes sense, yeah. I think, yeah, when I came on campus, I was like, oh, damn, everyone's like cracked.
Yeah,
But then you got,
exactly.
but then once you get to know them a little better, they're cracked at like one specific thing.
Yes,
And like you have that specific thing as well. So like you gotta outshine it. Like you gotta show that part of yourself, I guess. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
All right. Like, I guess my follow-up question would be like, what specifically drew you to like Harvard over other elite schools? Like Harvard, I know is like one of it's the best, but what was your mindset around that?
Yeah. So Harvard, it was the closest school that I applied to home, so that was important to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Leaving my family. So it's easy for me to just get on a train, get on a bus, and go home, which was important. And it also was my cheapest option. So their financial aid packages are incredible
Mm-hmm.
for low income students. And so it was my cheapest option, and it has an amazing government program, which is what
Yeah.
I've wanted to study. And their study abroad programs are amazing, which is something that I've always wanted to do and that I'm looking forward to. And so just all of those factors really made me think like I am never going to get this opportunity again. And like clearly there's a reason that I got in, and I should see what is waiting for me here. So
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Solid reasons. All right, let's move on to your academics that got you into Harvard. So let's talk about your stats first. Look, what was your GPA and what tests did you give and like what were your test scores?
yeah, so my school weights GPAs on a 4.5 scale if you
Okay.
take AP classes. AP classes bring your weighted GPA up, but I took a lot of my AP classes online because my school didn't offer that many. So I finished with a 4.44 GPA, and I was
Okay.
valedictorian of my class. I took a bunch of AP tests. I passed all of them. I did not get all fives, but I did pass all of them. And I took my SAT, and surprisingly enough, actually, this is, I only got a 1250 on my SAT. So this
Yeah.
goes out to everyone who thinks that like, everyone thinks that you have to get like a 1600 or 1500. I
Yeah.
got a 50 and I got into Harvard. Like honestly, the SAT, it's important, but it's not the end of the world.
Then
So,
that's actually really impressive. Like your extracurriculars and everything and your narrative
yeah.
must have been like crazy for
Yeah,
12.
my math score tanked my SAT score so bad. And I redid it and everything. I did like tutoring. I learned a lot from the experience and like I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot, but it wasn't reflected on my SAT score. Like that you can still get into Harvard with, a 1200, 12.
All right, really quickly, if you found value in this podcast so far, I've been exactly where you are. I'm sharing the exact case studies, doing live Q&As, and free one-on-one calls because I wish someone had done this for me. So it's free, but we're gonna be closing soon. So join with the first link in the description, and let's get back to the interview. Did you submit that score, or was it like SAT
I
optional
did.
this year? Oh,
Yeah.
you
So
did
Harvard
submit that.
Harvard stopped being test optional this past year. So
Oh,
I
okay,
had
okay,
to
okay,
submit
yeah.
my SAT score. But they do interviews. They, read your letters of recommendation. You can send in letters from your family or like someone who's close to you. So they look at you as like a whole person.
Yeah.
And my interview went amazing. Like my extracurriculars, my, things that I did in high school, all this kind of stuff. I guess the SAT score wasn't the end of the world.
Okay, so like I guess like I've have interviewed some people who don't have like the most impressive SAT scores. Like I have interviewed someone with a 1400, like a 1450, stuff like that. But a lot of them said that their school's typical range was much lower. So was it the same case for you?
Yeah, that was a really good score for my school. My school
Okay.
struggled a lot with getting kids to even participate in the
Mm-hmm.
SAT. So a lot of kids just end up opting out the day of and they sign the paper and they'd say, yeah, we're not going to do this. Only about half of my graduating class, if that, goes on to higher education at my school. So most people end up going straight to the workforce. So there's a lot of like, we don't need to take the SAT. Why, how's that ever going to help us?
Mm.
So my school has been flagged in New Hampshire as one of the schools that needs to focus on bringing their test scores up. So me getting a 1250 was actually really good for my school, and all of
Okay.
my teachers were like, this is so great. And I was like, yeah, is it? But like it was great on that smaller scale,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that Harvard decided to look at me
No,
as a
yeah. But like when you see like the all of the crackers, like you
that's
automatically
well,
mentally
everyone's like,
discard
well,
yourself.
what I know everyone's talking about like, oh, I got
Yeah.
1550. What did you get? I'm like, oh, guys. Yeah, okay. I'm not part of that group, but
Yeah.
yes.
I didn't take SAT, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I didn't take it. Yeah,
I
sorry.
forgot my score.
Yeah.
Damn, actually, yeah. All right. So you said you took a lot of AP classes online because your school did not offer them. So like, I guess like, how many AP classes did you take, and like, how many fives did you get? How many fours? Tell us.
Yeah. So I took out of my junior and senior year, I think I took 10, 11 in total,
Okay.
11 AP classes. And my school, my senior year, I took 4 of them in person, and I took 3 of, no, 2 of them online. And then my junior year, I also took 4 in person, and then I took a few other ones online. So I did like over 10 of them. As far as fives go, I didn't get any my junior year because the ones online, like, if you take certain AP classes online, it's just harder than if you have an
Yeah.
actual teacher. And so I didn't get any my junior year. My senior year, I got a 5 on AP Gov and AP Lit,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a 4 on AP French, which was quite impressive. My AP French class was only 4 kids, and most of them got 2s. So my French teacher was over the moon. And I got a 3 on AP Calc. I'm telling you, my math not that good. Like my SAT score. So I got a 3 on Calc. My junior year, I got a 3 on French. So I went from a 3 to a 4 in French because I took it
Okay.
twice. I got a 3 on AP US History. I got a 4 on AP Bio, a 4 on AP Lang. I didn't take the AP Physics test.
Okay.
I didn't take the AP Macroeconomics test either because I joined the class too late. I took it online and I joined it too late to have signed up to take a test. Yeah.
Okay, just to be clear, like, how many APs did you take in total, all of your 4 years?
Okay, bio.
10?
Yes.
Okay, and like, how many did your school offer out of those 10?
They offered probably like six of them.
Okay, I think this really helped your application as well because you made your course schedule much more rigorous than your school even
Yeah.
allowed, and it showed like great academic profile. Yeah, for
Right.
sure. So I guess like my next question would be like, how did you balance taking all of these challenging courses? I know APs are like very hard, especially if you're taking online. So like, how did you balance all of them while maintaining your GPA and while focusing on stats and extracurriculars and essays?
Yeah. So it was definitely a learning curve. Junior year really
Mm-hmm.
sucked, but I learned from that. So I think like senior year, I focused on prioritizing my academics in a way that I hadn't before because I had like a lot of hats in different extracurricular activities. And my senior year, I kept those, but I focused on my academics more. And it also helped like working a job that was only on weekdays. So I would
Okay.
go like straight from school to my after school program job working with kids. And I would work from like 3 o'clock until the program ended at 5:30. So I was only working 2.5 hours every day, but I got home in time for dinner, and then I had plenty of study time after that because I'm not somebody who can stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning and still be functioning while studying. So it was helpful to sort of have that time management where I would just have dinner and then be able to focus on studying for 4 hours or something. And then I would have the weekends too. And the weekends is when I would do my online classes. So I do like my in-person classes and homework during the week. And then I do all of my online classwork Saturdays and Sundays.
Just to give like context to students who are also looking to apply
Yes.
and who are in like a similar situation, how many hours would you say you worked a week at that point?
Like my job
No,
or
no, no, like on everything in total.
uh, everything in total. Oh
Yeah,
boy. Well, that's a good question. I mean, it depends on the week, but I would say my average was probably like 50 to 60 hours in
yeah,
total between working my job and studying.
damn. All right. Insane. But you made it to Harvard, so it was all worth it.
I did.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
All right, let's move on to your extracurriculars. So I guess like my first question would be like, when did you really start focusing seriously on building your extracurricular profile?
That would definitely be sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
Freshman year, I just kind of wanted to see what there was at my high school or what I could get into. But as I slowly like talked to more and more people, they would tell me of opportunities that were happening outside of school. They'd be like, "Oh, I saw this, club, or I saw this council that I thought you'd be good at," and they would tell me about it, and then I would apply or I'd join the council or something. And so I did a lot of my extracurriculars outside of school as well as inside of school. And I think that's also important because colleges are looking at you as a whole person and what you've done for your community. And that, yes, is your school community, but also, your greater community at large. And so I did a lot of work at the state level in New Hampshire and just like doing sort of things that weren't only about my school. But I really locked in like sophomore and junior year on extracurriculars.
Got it. And like, what were you doing before that point that made you realize I need to change, I need to lock in if I want to get into like a
Um,
good uni?
well, I kind of realized that I wasn't doing that much freshman year when like all of my friends were so busy with, student council and yearbook and this and that. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably should do some of that, guys.
Yeah.
Um, Comparing myself to the people around me. I mean, comparison's a bad thing, but sometimes it helps.
I
Sometimes it,
totally agree with this. I think like your friend group influences so much
yes.
where
Yeah.
you go to college. It's like my friends, they were all locked in from like
Yeah.
freshman year or something, you know? They
Yeah.
started doing events, Olympiads and
Exactly.
everything. So I was like, okay, I gotta do this as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking around. I'm like, oh crap. Like, I need to log in too, guys. So then, like, by the end of freshman year, I was like on student council. And then sophomore year, I like really took a bigger look at what I was doing and got
Makes
more
sense.
involved.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about your, like, walk us through some of your extracurriculars, the one you think made the most impact to your application.
Yeah. So The biggest one, honestly, I had my interview the night before I presented my senior project. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why I picked that day for my Harvard interview, but honestly, I think it was a good thing. I was so scared for my project presentation in the morning because my senior project was like, honest, I think that's one of the big things that helped me get into Harvard. So in my small school,
Mm-hmm.
one of the graduation requirements is this thing called the senior project, and
Okay.
it's half credit by itself. You have to do it in order to graduate, and you have to write a 6 to 8 page research paper, and then you have to do a 10 to 15 minute presentation about whatever you want, and you have to have a product too. So on any topic, anything that you want, anything you're interested in, anything you want to look more at, anything you want to do like career wise, you research it, you do a presentation, and you have a product. And so I wanted to do something in like the legislative realm in government because that's what I was really interested in. And so I reached out to my local police chief and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, I want to look at changing the law. Or like I want to look at problems with laws that have to do with child welfare in the state of New Hampshire.
Okay.
And so I met with him a few times and we talked and he gave me some ideas. And I looked at New Hampshire's one of RSA. I looked at one of their RSAs and I reached out to a House of Representative in the state that I knew from doing like legislative extracurriculars. That's the thing about extracurriculars. They can get you contacts sometimes, which are really good and like connections. So I reached out to her and I was like, I think we should change this law. And so her and I met, the three of us met, the police chief, the legislator, and I, and my senior project was researching opioids and controlled substances and how that impacts child welfare.
Okay.
And working with them, we drafted a law to change the RSA. And
Mm.
it was New Hampshire's methamphetamine statute,
Okay.
but we changed it to all controlled substances. So it turned into like this bigger thing to protect children that didn't just have to do with methamphetamine. It would include heroin, cocaine, fentanyl, everything instead of just methamphetamine. And my senior project, I presented it to people from the Department of Child and Family Services, from the child office of the advocate for New Hampshire, and legislators and law enforcement people and people from school. Like I just reached out to anyone and everyone who wanted to hear what I had to say about this.
Okay.
And then it turned into House Bill 473, New Hampshire, this past legislative session. I went down with the chief and with the legislator, three of us. We went down to the House committee and we testified on it and they passed it. They passed it in the House of Representatives with a voice vote, passed unanimously. Then we went down and we testified in the Senate committee. They passed it in the Senate committee. We went down when the Senate was voting on it and they passed it. And then I went to when Governor Kelly Ayotte, just this summer in June, she was having a special signing for bills that had to do with victims and protecting victims' rights. And my bill was part of, 11 bills or something that had gotten passed. And she signed it into law. And so my Harvard interview was the night before I presented all of this to all these people. And my interviewer was like, yeah, walk me through this because I want to make sure you're prepared for your presentation tomorrow. And I told her all about this project and she was like, that is so incredible. Like you would fit right in at Harvard, this and that. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like this was actually a good time to schedule my interview because it gave me something to talk about. So that was definitely like my big one was my senior project. But I would also say like they're interested in, I apologize.
That's okay.
They're interested in like kids who have an interest in like one specific field. So I did a lot of extracurriculars. I did like the Legislative Youth Advisory Council. I was on the Governor's Council for Substance Misuse and Prevention. I was the president of my school's Getting to Why Club, which had to do with healthy decision making and risky behaviors. And we worked with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey data. And so I did a lot with legislation and substance misuse and child welfare. And so when I said in my interview I wanted to study government, they were like, oh yeah, like that shows, like those extracurriculars
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was gonna say as well.
they show that leadership and they show that interest in that. I mean, people could, some of those kids who are like locked in and have 20 extracurriculars, but some of them are doing, like some in this field and some in this field and some in this field. And they're
Yeah.
like just members of these. that's great. And like, it looks great to have 20 on your list, but it looks better if you have like 5 that you're focused on in the same area, doing things that you're interested in. And, you're like president of one or, like secretary of another. Like, you have leadership positions in these clubs that look so much better.
Makes sense, yeah. I guess my question would be like, what inspired you to work on this problem? Like, what was your backstory?
So my mom is a social worker, and I've
Okay.
grown up listening to her say, Tess, someone needs to change these laws. Like, someone needs to do something. And so I was like, you know what, Mom? I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to do something about this. So I decided to do that. And like, my passion for substance misuse prevention and like child welfare comes from the fact that I have a father who suffers from substance misuse, and he's no longer a part of my life because of his disease and his
Mm-hmm.
substance misuse. And so, like, I have grown up watching the justice system and the court system and this and that, and it was like I wanted to change that for kids because I didn't want them to go through some of the same stuff that I went through. So
Got it. So, yeah, you turned like your story into something very impactful. I think that
yeah,
that helped your admissions significantly
absolutely.
for sure. Yeah. I guess like how long did it take you to build this idea to like significant impact that was impressive to Harvard?
I think the whole thing took about a year,
Mm-hmm.
just from start to finish, from thinking about it to getting the bill passed. It took a year. Last summer was when I reached out and we started meeting. And it takes a while. Like, the legislative process
Yeah.
is exhausting and very long and sometimes boring. But I mean, I committed to this project for a long time. And I think that was also what interested Harvard about the project, too, was that, I committed to something and I wanted to change something. I mean, like, all these schools are looking for people who like want to make a positive change on the world, whether that be in advocacy, government, tech, chemistry. Like, you want to change the world and you want to do something impactful. That was really important to them.
Makes sense. Yeah. I guess like a lot of people also have this question, and I ask this to basically everyone who comes on the podcast. How do you quantify impact when your numbers aren't that huge? Because like Harvard, like applicants, they have like crazy numbers. Oh, I impacted like 1 million people with my book or something, like with my blog, stuff like that. Like, so how do you quantify it when your numbers aren't huge?
I think that quantifying your change doesn't matter as much as you think it does, because
Mm-hmm.
if you change one person's life, I think that that's enough. Like, if you can just, I think about the law that I passed, and if I could just improve one child's life with that and give one child a better and safe place to grow up, then
Mm-hmm.
that would all of my work will have meant so much, because that one child could be spared from abuse and growing up in these terrible conditions, and who knows what they're going to do, like who knows what their future holds. And so I think quantifying change doesn't matter as much as you think it does, because of those reasons. Like, as long as you change one person's life or you change one thing about this and it's a positive thing, I think that's all that matters.
Makes sense. Okay. Your application showed very real leadership. Out of all of the interviews I've done, and this is like I think one of the cases where actual leadership has been shown in the application. So like I guess I want to ask you like what's the difference between like leadership on paper versus real leadership?
Leadership on paper, that is so very common. At my school, we always talked about how student council in specific would be used as just like a resume builder. And you
Mm-hmm.
would sit there and you would attend meetings, but you wouldn't, help clean up the winter carnival dance. You wouldn't go set up the bonfire, like stuff like that. And so I think that leadership on paper is very popular. I mean, everyone wants to look good on paper. I don't know someone who doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think that leadership, like in person and actually being a leader, is making those small positive changes. And again, it doesn't have to be big, and you don't have to, come up with the next cure for some crazy disease to be considered a leader. I think you just have to be able to look at a problem and work with people to figure out a way to fix it or figure out a way to improve those lives. And by having those like real world examples, it is so much better than just listing out everything on your resume, because people want to see the change and they want to see the things that you actually can do or the things that you're interested in fixing or changing in the world, not the things that you list on your resume.
Makes sense. All right. Apart from these activities, your legislative activities and your leadership activities, or what other activities did you put on your extracurricular section?
I put president of National Honor Society. I did the Social Studies Honor Society for a year, so that was Rho Kappa. I did yearbook. I did student council. I was a youth representative on the Newfound Coalition for Youth, which was like the local youth representing organization on substance misuse and stuff. And I also wrote a lot about my job
Mm-hmm.
because that also counted a lot, in my opinion, for things that I did extracurricularly because I didn't, I mean, I worked every single day and I was site coordinator of an after school program. So like I ran their after school program. And so I wrote about that too and like making a difference in the elementary school kids' lives every day and giving them like a safe place to go play recess or tell me how your day went and don't just say it went fine. Like they would talk to me about these things and we would, do crafts and I did a French club with them and introduced them to like the French language, which in a rural place is not something you see very often. And so, I mean, like, not everything has to be just in your school to be considered extracurricular because I talked about my job a lot.
Makes sense. Okay. Moving on. Did you put any like community service activity on your application, and
Yeah, I did. I did.
how did you make it feel like authentic rather than just checking a box? Because a lot of people like they're given this like checklist. Oh, you need to put community service. You need to do Olympiads. Stuff like that. So like,
Yeah.
how do you do that?
I volunteered with New Hampshire Teen Institute,
Mm-hmm.
which runs weekend programs and summer camps for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And so I think I made that feel personal because, and it is personal, because I was a participant in one of these summer programs when
Mm-hmm.
I was going into my sophomore year of high school. And so I went from being a participant to being a volunteer staff member because of how much I love the program and how much it mattered to me. And so it was so easy to write about that and include that because it's something so meaningful. And so, I mean, I guess to avoid feeling like you're just checking the box, I would say do something that you find meaningful too, not just something that everyone else is doing and you feel like you have to volunteer for this organization or that one. Like
Mm-hmm.
do something that means something to you because that will make it all the more meaningful and you won't feel like you're checking a box because you're going to learn things from it and you're going to improve from it.
Makes sense. Okay. All right. Let's move on from extracurriculars to your awards and honors. So, like, how strong do you think your awards and honors section was, and did you feel competitive in that area?
As far as how strong it was, I think it was strong for somebody from a rural high school with a graduating class of like 95 kids.
Mm-hmm.
As far as if I feel like it was competitive, I would like to say yes, but a lot of my classmates are super crazy and just have all of these crazy awards and scholarships and things.
Okay.
So I don't know if it compares to them, but I mean, like, for my little high school, it definitely was a lot, and it was good.
And like, what did you add in that?
So I had like 2 AP Scholar awards from College Board for passing all my AP tests and like getting a 5 on some of them. My school does like underclassmen awards and then senior awards, so they do like best in whatever subject. And so I got best in French all 4 years. I got best in English, best in business, best in extended learning opportunities. I got a judge's award for my senior project. I got the Voice of Newfound, which Newfound was my school, so I won that award. Valedictorian, I got summa cum laude all 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think it's pretty good for like the school you were in.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Let's talk about your essays now. So I guess like, how did you turn your journey into compelling essays that got you into Harvard?
Yeah, so I talked about 3 different aspects of my journey and turned it into one, which I think was important because they got to see more pieces of me than just one aspect. So I talked about growing up in a rural community,
Mm-hmm.
growing up fast by not having a father figure in my life, and I talked about growing up and coming out as queer and how that influenced how the people around me looked at me and how I looked at myself, especially again in that rural community where there's not a lot of support. So I talked about all of that, and how I felt so isolated and alone sometimes, and it was hard feeling like a second parent to my brother and trying to, figure out school and stay locked in and do all those
Yeah.
things. And like it felt like I couldn't just breathe for a moment for a lot of my high school career. And so I wrote about that and how all these, experiences influenced me in wanting to create systemic change and wanting to create places where people feel safe and where politics aren't, so violent and terrible and scary. And so I think like all of those, I just sort of talked about the positives that came out of those experiences and then what I would do at Harvard and what I plan on doing in my college journey to continue to improve different things. Because I think like the key to college essays is writing about a part of your story that, might be vulnerable or something, and giving them like this piece of yourself, but then changing it into something positive
Yeah,
and looking at the future.
for sure.
And so
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah, makes sense. All right, we're less than 2 months away from ED, and my DMs are like full of students who are just waking up to reality about like at college essays,
yeah.
So like, how do you suggest they approach the essay process at this moment?
Well, that's funny. I just gave this advice to my younger cousin who's about to go through the college application process as well. So I told her to write down, just make a list, everything you think you could use in a college essay. Like it could be 2 pages long. Like write down experiences, memories, pieces of yourself, anything that you think you could use in your college essay. And then talk about it with someone. Like talk about that that memory or that piece of you, and you'll figure out which one is strongest and which one is easiest to write about. And I also tell people to like, don't just write about one thing, like tie in different things. And so like me and my cousin were talking and she was like, oh, I have these like 6 ideas, but I really like these first 3. And I was like, okay, let's find a way to connect the 3 of these things together to make your essay really compelling and show who you are and show how these experiences have changed you and will change your future. So I would say, talk it out with someone. Don't just say no to an idea because it seems too hard to write about now. I mean, like you could connect it to something else. But I also would say like have people read your drafts all the time. Like have your teachers read your drafts, have your mentors read your drafts, like people from all different walks of life, because they're all going to have different advice for you, but it's all very, very helpful. I had my mom read my draft and my teachers and my principal and my mentors and like my neighbor and my best friend, like all these people who know you, know different parts of you and can help bring that out in your essay.
Okay. And like, do you think like if you get like a lot of advice from all of these different people, you might like lose your own voice?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I would say like don't be afraid to stick to what you want in your college essay. Because like you look up what to include in a college essay and you'll find like 70 Google articles about what you should put in your college essay. But like the truth is these schools have seen all of those templates before. Like they have seen, all of these things that Google says. And like, yes, it's important, but you also want to be unique and you want to show who you are in these essays. So like get advice from other people, but don't let other people dictate what you write your essay about. Because in the end, it's your essay and it's you and it's your future.
Makes sense. Yep. Moving on. How many drafts did you have to do? And like, when did you start writing your college essay for the first time?
I started writing it right after junior year ended.
Okay.
So like during the summer between junior and senior year. And I wrote 1 draft and I sent it to my English teacher. And I said, can you read this through? And she was like, yeah, you should completely restart. Like just completely redo this. And the more that I look back at it, she was completely right. Like that was just not what I should have wrote about at all. And so I completely redid it. And I think I had like 5 or 6 drafts before I finally turned it in. And that was after like people editing my word choice and my grammar and this and that. And, take that sentence out or put more detail here. But it's important to like make sure that you keep your own voice no matter how many drafts you go through.
Makes sense. Okay. All right. I guess like another question would be like, what does being authentic actually mean in college essays when you're actually just trying to impress the admissions officers?
Yes.
And how do
Yeah,
you like balance that
right.
authenticity and strategy?
I know. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky game to play. I think my first draft, after the one that I threw out, my first draft of the essay that I actually turned in, I just wrote being completely authentic. I didn't try to
Okay.
impress anybody. I didn't try to, and this is why you should let me in. Like, I didn't try to do any of that. I literally just wrote an essay about my past, about my story, what I've done so far, and what I want to do. And then I had people read through it and they were like, this is your college essay. You kind of need to brag about yourself a little bit here. And so, like, then I had to go through and sort of revamp my essay and how it, what I included in it and what I didn't. But I think, like, everyone's trying so hard to impress admissions officers, especially now. Like, I don't know, there's just so much competition nowadays between like seeing people on social media and like this and that. And so everyone's trying to impress admission officers. But I think honestly, they're looking for someone who is more authentic and like doesn't try their hardest to impress them. Because people like you are going to impress the admissions officers no matter what. Like even if you're rejected from schools, like I'm pretty sure you still astounded somebody in the admissions book. Like there's no way because the kids who are applying to these schools have all worked so hard and have done so much and are all impressive in their own way. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's important to remember. Like, yes, you are trying to basically sell yourself in an application so that someone picks you and chooses you to go to this crazy school. But you never have to let go of the fact that you are impressive either way. And I think you should just write like you know that.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on. Which Harvard supplemental essay was the most challenging for you to write?
That's a good one. Um, I didn't. There's one about talking about a time that you failed
Mm-hmm.
and what you did about it. And I was like, oh, I could talk about, like not getting into this club or whatever. But I decided to just go for it and write about how I was failing tests left and right in AP Calc, which is not something you usually would say
Yeah.
because I'm trying to like, I finished AP Calc with an A, but that was not without a few redos. And so I talked about how I was failing tests in AP Calc. I didn't understand what I was doing. I was like so close to emailing Harvard admissions and all my schools and telling them, yeah, I decided not to take AP Calc, like don't expect that on my transcript. And so I wrote about that, and that was hard because I was like, this is super authentic, and I don't know if this is like too authentic or if I should be really trying to impress them and just say that, I got rejected from this club, but it doesn't matter. Did something else in my life. But I talked about how AP Calc is so hard and so draining, and I had never been more challenged in my high school career than this class. But honestly, I think that's helpful because it shows that you're not afraid to fail and like you'll stick with it. So
Makes sense. Yeah. I guess another question would be like, how did you research Harvard to make your why Harvard response
yeah.
authentic and impressive to admissions officers?
I mean, I live close, so
Mm-hmm.
that helped because I came and visited, toured, I did an info session, I scoured their website. Um, in my interview, I asked her a lot of questions about Harvard. So if, they ever needed more information, I would have it. Tried, reaching out to people. There was only one kid in my school before me who had ever gone to Harvard. So I tried like talking to him and talking to other kids who had gone to prestigious schools before me and just, asking them what made you choose Harvard or what made you choose the school that you did. But I spent a lot of time on the website and a lot of time actually here. And being here made it easier to say, this is why, because I've been to this campus and like I know that this is my place.
Makes sense. Yeah. And like, what would you suggest to people who cannot like visit the campus beforehand?
I would say look up virtual tours. Like
Okay.
a lot of colleges have those now and they're very helpful. Or, if you have Instagram, like look up someone who goes to Harvard and just be like, hey, if the virtual tour doesn't cover this one building or you're interested in this part of campus, ask someone, reach out to them on social media and be like, do you have any pictures of this? Like I'm wondering about applying to Harvard. Like we want to, me personally, I can't speak for every Harvard student, but I would say like most of us as a whole want kids to come here and want kids to be interested. And I think that goes for any kid, like any college student. They want people to be interested in their school.
Yeah.
Like just definitely don't be afraid to reach out to people and do those virtual tours because those are helpful.
Okay. And do you remember like what specific programs or opportunities at Harvard did you connect to your experiences in your Why Harvard essay?
Yeah, I talked about the Harvard International Review, so the HIR,
Okay.
because I'm really interested in international relations. My dorm is right on Mass Ave, and it's actually like so bad. That would be
Yeah.
the downside of Harvard. Um, but I was interested in HIR because I wanted to do something international relations wise in government. And so I talked about wanting to join them and wanting to do something in the Institute of Politics or the IOP, which is the huge organization on campus. They have more than like 18 different programs,
Okay.
political programs. And so I talked about those, and most of them, like, I did some summer work for the HIR. Like, it's just, it helps to express interest, and then you're able to do summer work. So, like, before I even came on campus, I was doing stuff for the HIR.
Makes sense. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about your college selection strategy. So like
Yes.
many students don't have a college they're like truly passionate about, and they just like some schools and then they apply everywhere based on, vague inclinations. So like what was the college selection process for you? Like what did your college list look like? Did you have any safeties? Walk us through that.
Yeah. I think mine started out a little like that. I just had, some on my list that I liked. And then, I did like the niche college like match thing where it was like you put in your information and, some websites are like, you would like it here, or like,
Yeah.
you want to be somewhere urban, you would like it there. And so I like looked at those colleges. I knew I wanted to go somewhere out of state, so that kind of eliminated most New Hampshire colleges for me. I did apply to Dartmouth though, but that's like technically on the Vermont border. But anyways, so like I looked at those a lot, and then I started looking at what colleges were best known for the programs or the things that I wanted to study. And Harvard has a really great gov department. So I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I'll apply to Harvard after my teacher told me to. But I would say like look for places that have things you're interested in, like if you're interested in a sport, or if you want to be in a certain area, or like you want a small class size, or you want to be in a city, like all of these things. You just have
Yeah.
to do research, basically.
Yeah.
It's all research.
I think going to like US News and seeing the rankings and then deciding based on that is like the worst possible thing you can
Yes.
do. Because like
Yes.
if you don't enjoy your school, it's
Right,
gonna be like
exactly.
you're gonna be stuck in there for like
Yeah,
4 years.
like just
Yeah.
because you're in a top 10 school doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
fit for you. Like
Yeah.
that does not mean
Makes sense.
anything.
Yeah. It's what you like. Like I think every school like has a lot of resources, it's just how you utilize them for
Yeah,
your
exactly.
specific purpose.
Yeah.
I guess like, and I'm constantly asked about this as well. Like, how do you balance like reach, match, and safety schools when building your list?
Yeah, that's a good question. I had somebody bluntly tell me all of my schools were reach schools and to start looking for like safety schools. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, sure. So, definitely balance them. I would say, like, I never said no to applying to a school that everyone said was a reach school. Like, so what? There's a chance you could get in, and it would be great. So, like, I applied to all my reach schools, and I had a few safety schools, like Common App, direct admissions. I basically was like, yeah, sure, all of these direct admissions. Like, that way I have a list of options if I don't get into any of my reach schools. But definitely important to balance them.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about your recommendation letter strategy. I guess like, did you ever guide or prepare your recommenders by sharing like a brag sheet so they could write stronger letters? And like, if you did, how did you approach that conversation?
Yeah, so I asked, I first reached out to some of the teachers who knew me really well and had me for multiple classes.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, would you mind writing me a letter of recommendation? And they were like, yeah, no problem. Do you have a brag sheet? Yes, I have a brag sheet. And so then I sent it to them, and they were like, okay, cool. Like, where do I upload it? Because most of the times you aren't allowed to see your letters of recommendation for college essays.
Yeah.
Application. So I just put in their email in the Common App thing where it was like, put in the email of your letter of recommendation people so they can submit it directly. So I did that, and then they wrote a letter of recommendation, and I mean, clearly it was good, I think. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they were good, but I would say, like, some schools want you to pick your most recent teachers, and like, luckily for me, both of mine were pretty recent, but like, I also would say pick someone who, like, pick a teacher who has had you multiple times or, like, has seen you grow. Because one of my recommendation people was my French teacher, and he had me since 8th grade. And so, like, he knew how I had changed since 8th grade. So
Okay.
that was, like, that was
Yeah.
pretty helpful.
Makes sense. And I guess like what did you provide to your recommenders to help them write compelling letters?
I gave them a brag sheet with my extracurriculars, things that I do outside of school. It was basically like my resume, plus all my extracurriculars, plus what I want to study and why I want to study it. Like I gave them a little bit of that information. And then like academics. So like, maintains, this GPA, top of her class, like has taken this many AP classes, does classes on like that basic stuff.
Okay, makes sense. All right. Moving on, let's talk about like mentorship, like, and how important do you think advice from seniors is? And did you have any help during your application process?
So I had help from adult mentors, but I didn't have any help from like any upperclassmen,
Okay.
which I wish I would have. But again, like our school is so small.
Makes
It's like only half of our class actually goes to college. But a lot of my mentors and people who helped me were, which was helpful. But it definitely would have been nice to talk to someone who had like just gone through the application process.
Okay. I guess like I mean we're almost done, but I just want to ask like what advice do you have for students with like good but not perfect stats?
I think that's okay. And I think you should be okay with that. Again, I did not get a great SAT score. And I was upset over that for a while. I was like, okay, so I'm doomed. Like, I'm never going to college. All of my reach schools automatically gone. I was like, they're all going to reject me. But don't fall down that path. Like I said earlier, every single person that is applying to any college is an impressive person. Like, everyone has their thing that they're good at and has things that are, like, very impressive about them.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, don't forget to value yourself. And, like, you're going to get rejected, but that's okay. Like, you will end up where you're meant to end up.
Makes sense. All right. Last question. If you could go back and give your freshman year self one piece of advice, like what it would be?
I would tell her that comparing herself to other people is not always the best thing. It's great when you want to get motivated, but then you should, after the motivation, like stop comparing yourself to other people, because no two people are the same. And like I said, everyone has their own strengths and you cannot expect to be just like somebody else.
Makes sense. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. It was amazing having you. I think it'll be immensely helpful for people who are looking to apply to colleges.